Hello everyone, welcome to PowerUp. I'm Brad. Today we're going to be building the Faraday Flyer. This is the first official balsa wood airframe designed specifically for the PowerUp 2.0. Inside this bundle package, you're going to find two things. First, it will be the PowerUp 2.0 module, and second, the Faraday Flyer airframe parts. We're going to need a few things: some wax paper, a pair of scissors, super glue. You can find Gorilla in any store. It's what I recommend. This is optional. It's called a CA accelerator. This helps your super glue dry faster. And I put this in a small little eyedropper for application. You're also going to need a pencil and a penny. Let's open up the package. I recommend not trying to tear the plastic. Instead, you want to use either a knife or some scissors, and that makes it a lot easier to extract the parts. Here we have a parts list. On the back, some QR codes for some videos, a card to pay homage to Mr. Faraday, and the balsa wood and plywood parts. Here's a nail file and some rubber bands. The first thing we want to do is pop these parts off the carrier sheets, and you shall find that they are fairly easy to pop them out. You might have to give it a little bit of a jiggle wiggle. And these are the parts here for the fuselage. If it gives you a little resistance, just give it a little patience. For these little square pieces, I like to find the little scrap piece is perfect to poke those through. Just like that. So those are scrap pieces. We have that. Then the parts for our wings and stabilizers and fins. So therefore you should have 3 fins, plus the vertical stabilizer, horizontal stabilizer, the main wing, and the pieces for the fuse. And then for these pieces right here, just use the sharp bit to just pop those out. And those tiny little bits are also scrap pieces. So that is our parts. First, we're going to work on the wings. What we need to do is set the dihedral on each wing. Now you'll notice that there are wing brakes. That's the dotted lines. And if you look closely, you'll notice that they're actually at an angle. Don't worry about that. That's perfectly fine, and that's by design. So you want to make certain the wing is facing up so you see the words Faraday Flyer. So this is how we're going to set the wing dihedral. What I like to do is put a pencil underneath the wing, and we got to break this joint. Get the PowerUp module, or actually the PowerUp charger, and line it up onto that line, and you'll want the pencil about halfway up the wing, tip, and then just press down. You'll hear that snap. Sounds horrible, but that's quite all right. And underneath this, I do have some wax paper, which is important because I don't want to accidentally glue my project to the table. So I'm going to apply a bead of super glue right there on the joint. And that is quite a bit of glue. What we can do is break off a piece of the scrap balsa, and of which I can then use to smooth out the super glue. And it's okay to have the super glue a little bit on each side of the wing joint, probably 1/8 of an inch or so. And once I get that spread out, it's going to dry fairly quickly, This is how we set the right angle. See this screw right here? I want to line up the center of this screw to the very tip of the wing. I'm going to push this down, and if you look at the wing straight down from the top, you'll notice that it lines up, the wingtip lines up with the center of the screw. That is where we want the wingtip to be set. I'm going to use my CA accelerator and just give it a couple drops. And this should help quickly set that wing dihedral. So we'll just leave it sit there for a few seconds. Once that is cured and it's not moving, we will rotate it to the other side and repeat the process. Pencil underneath, line this up, flatten it, bead of glue, smooth it out, and set the dihedral angle. Again, looking at it from the very top, for example, you want to make certain that it lines up with the screw. Then we can set it. If you don't have CA accelerator, that's quite all right. One of the things that you can do is put something kind of heavy on there, like this roll of wax paper, and just let it set for 30 minutes or so. You should be fine. Once that is set, we're going to work on the back side of the joint. And I have provided in the kit a nail file of which we can smooth out. Sometimes you'll have little splinters of wood. And I'm not really sanding this too much. I'm just giving it a little smooth out. And once that's smooth, now we want to vigorously apply a bead of glue on the back side. Okay? We'll do that for both sides. And we can also use this to smooth it out. It looks like I put quite a bit on here, but that's all right. The glue is flowing heavily today. All right. And again, I'm just going to give it a drop of the accelerant. And I'm applying the accelerant on the outside of the wing here, and a little bit on the inside. I'm trying to steer clear, and some of it is actually going towards that notch there, but I'm trying to steer clear of dousing too much in that notch area. We'll come back to that a little bit later. So we're going to give this some time to set and dry and let the accelerant evaporate. So I'm going to put this aside for now, and we'll go on to the next step. All right, for the next step, I think we can work on the fuselage. And these are the plywood pieces. So you'll notice that one side says Faraday Flyer and the other side does not. We want to turn that over. And the first piece we're going to glue is the pylon, which fits in those two holes as such. Okay. You definitely want to have a good flat level table. And how we're going to apply the glue is between these pegs. I want to run a bead of glue. You do not want to put glue on the very ends of the pegs, but just between the pegs. And then we're going to set that into those two holes and firmly press down. And it takes a little bit longer for the super glue to stick to this plywood, so you want to make certain you hold this for a good 20 to 30 seconds on a nice flat table. And then we can move on to the next part. There are two nose pieces. One has the PowerUp logo, the other one does not. So the one that does not have the logo is the next piece. We're going to be applying glue in this area all around here. And it's easy to get too much glue on there. I want to be careful about that. I think I may have gotten a little crazy, but that's all right. And then that will just slide right on and push right up against the pylon. So we should be able to hold that for a few seconds and then move on to the next. Now this is where we have to be a little bit more careful. We're going to apply glue on the fork, and we don't want to overdo it on the fork. We just want just little dabs. So for instance, I just want just little dabs. If you do too much, it's just going to spill out. And if it doesn't dry properly, you might get it stuck to the capacitor. That looks like enough glue on there. That should be all right. So now we take the second nose piece and slide it on there. You can see how things line up perfectly. All right. And now we push that down, and that is the fuselage. And if you have any excess glue on the sides, you can just take a little paper towel and just wipe that off. So for now, I'm just going to put this aside on another sheet of wax paper. And the next step is to work on the empennage, the tail section. So we're going to need the horizontal stabilizer, the vertical stabilizer, which has a picture of the scientist, Michael Faraday, and one of the fins. Now, you want to make certain that the word PowerUp is facing up. That's the top side of the wing. And we're going to do a test fit to make certain that this piece fits. And there's only one slot that this will fit in, and it's this slot right here. And you want to make certain that test piece fits in there. And also, this is going to be on the underside. We'll also want to check to see if that fits as well. And they do fit. If they do not fit and they're a little too snug, then you can just take the nail file and just give it a little rub down just to thin it out a little bit so it will fit. So the vertical stabilizer is what we're going to put on first. Just a little bit of glue here, a little bit of glue there. And what I like to do is put some on the side of the tabs on both sides. And that should easily fit right in there. Okay. And now on the back side, and also careful not to bump that while it's drying. You can wait for it to dry if you like, but I'm just kind of speeding through this. The back side, we'll get some right there. And also on the tabs, on the sides of the tabs. Like that. That might drip. And this will slide in like that. Okay. And I'm going to put a little accelerant at the top here on both sides, but I will not put any on the bottom because the next step, we're going to attach the tail section to the fuselage right here. So this is where we're going to glue it to. It's going to look like that. And you will also notice that the downward facing fin touches against the side of the fuse. So we want to get a little bit of glue on that side too. Okay. So I'm going to apply some glue right here and a little bit on this side. This is the left side of the fuse so that it can touch the downward fin and make certain that that tail section is glued on horizontal. So you line it up, give it an eyeball, and you can apply some accelerant at that point on the downward side of the airplane. There we go. So that is the tail section. And then we will go back to the main wing because our next step is to glue these downward facing fins, and I'm doing a test fit, and they fit perfectly fine. So we're going to apply a little glue right here and some right here, and again on the sides of the tab, and make certain it's aligned vertically, and repeat for the other side. Okay, that's how they go on. Now for extra durability, what I like to do is to give it a little bit of a bead on the leading edge here. Oops, that's quite a bit. And now I can apply some accelerant on both sides. And if you're using an eyedropper, try not to touch the super glue, because then you'll get some super glue clogging up your eyedropper. Give that a little time to set. And basically, once that's set, the last step of gluing is getting our main wing glued onto the fuselage as such. Okay. This right here is a glue line, so you don't want any glue past that line. And we're going to glue from the glue line up to this tab right there. Get a bead of glue on there, go up to the tab, and in fact, we're even going to go one drop behind the tab. Yep. So this slides right in. Make certain that peg fits right into that hole, like that. And then make certain as you look from the front of the plane that the wing is being glued flat and level. And I'm going to push on the back side to make certain that it sticks behind that tab right there, if you can see that. So you want to hold this wing for a few seconds to make certain it is firmly secure and that it looks level. And the final step for additional strength, we're going to try to get some glue right here and along the, what I call the armpits of the airplane. And we're just going to run that right back there. And this just basically helps strengthen the wing and make certain that it's additionally secured to the fuselage. All right, we can then add some drops of accelerant. Like that. That is the Faraday Flyer airframe. We're going to give it plenty of time for the glue to dry. Probably leave it for a good hour or so. And we'll come back and show you how to mount the PowerUp 2.0 module. Now we're going to want to mount the Faraday onto the PowerUp 2.0 module. Inside our kit, we have included some tiny little rubber bands. You want 2 of those. You get 4 just in case you lose some. First thing we want to do is stretch one out and loop it over the capacitor like that. On the Faraday, you'll notice there's a set of hooks. So we take the little rubber band, wrap it around one of the sides as such. Okay, there, it's on there. We take the Faraday upside down and put it into the little slot for the fuselage. Okay, and grab the rubber band, turn it over, and hook it onto that hook right there. You'll notice that it goes on either side of the hook in the middle of the fork there. And that way we can slide our PowerUp into the middle. And then we can take this rubber band and stretch it over the other side to hook it on like that. So now you have 2 rubber bands holding your PowerUp. Finally, the penny that you need goes onto the clips. This might be a little tricky, but you want to slide it on as such. The penny adds some ballast for the airplane. When we fly the airplane, we have a couple degrees of adjustments. The first is the center of gravity. You can move the nose of the capacitor forward and back. If you move it forward, the CG moves forward. You move it back, the CG moves back. The second degree of adjustment is this penny. So for instance, if you want it to go to the left side of the airplane, like that, that's going to tighten the turn radius because it wants to circle to the left. If you want to widen the turn radius, you want to move the penny to the other side. So that's some experimentation that you get to tinker with when you're flying the Faraday Flyer. We hope you have fun flying this wonderful balsa wood model. And if you follow the QR code on the back of the instructions, I will give you some tips on how to fly this airplane. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Brad. Take care.